Good afternoon. Welcome to the Anfield Review podcast, guys. We are live this afternoon. It is, what's the 12th of March? Already the 12th of March this year, heading by at a vast rate, not so heading towards the end of the season. Already, it is crazy times, just crazy times. But look, it's perhaps not the season we all hoped it be. Perhaps not the season we all expected it to be by any stretch of the imagination. Really just disappointing this season. Really is really disappointing this season, how things have gone for Liverpool Football Club. And look, we're going to talk about what David Ornstein has had to say. We're going to talk a little bit as well about where we are as a club, and obviously, start to look ahead to the game this weekend. It's a game that Liverpool just cannot lose in the slightest. We are live this afternoon. Here on YouTube, on the channel. So please, obviously, smash a sub. If you haven't caught it live, be great if you could come in and catch some more of the lives. Be great. We are also, as well, going live on TikTok as well. So we're actually dual. What's it called? Dual casting. I don't know what the correct word is. Dual casting, dual something. So get your comments in, get your views in, get everything in, obviously, for the podcast. Right, look, we're 6 away from 200 as well. I'd be grateful if, we're 6 away from 200. Be grateful if you could head over to YouTube, or if you're on YouTube, you could smash a sub on the channel. We're going to talk all things Liverpool this afternoon. We're going to start off with those David Ornstein comments this afternoon that he made yesterday. Look, interesting comments from David Ornstein as regards the manager. I think, look, it is what we always knew. Up the Reds, come on, says Corey the Legend over on TikTok. Well, from Corey, have you checked out our YouTube channel? Come over to YouTube, give us a check out. It'd be great if you could come over. Right, so look, we are live, like I said, here on YouTube, and we are live on TikTok. So if you're on TikTok, come on over to the YouTube, come and hit a sub, help us to grow. We're 6 away from 200. Yeah, look, I think it's what we all knew. We all knew that Arne Slot, I think, would be here till the end of the season. Look, I think, there was always a desire and a hope that... that we'd end up with a manager, and we'd end up with him perhaps getting the sack after the PSV game, after the Forest game. There's a number of games this season that people have said is the straw that broke the camel's back, but none of them have been the straw that broke the camel's back. And, Corey Legend says, keep him. Corey, I'd love to know, right, if you're slot in, please tell me why you're slot in. I'd love to know the reasons why people still have faith in Arne Slot. What is the reason to keep Arne Slot as Liverpool manager? Unless, of course, you're trolling and you're a Man United fan, or a Man City fan, or an Arsenal fan, or a Chelsea fan, just want us to keep Arne Slot because he's not very good at his job. Like I said, I'd love to know the reason. He won the league for one, okay, with Jurgen Klopp's team and Jurgen Klopp's squad, but there we go, yeah. What's he done this season, though? What progress are you saying? What are you seeing this season that's convincing you that he is the man to take us forward? Right, let's have a look at those Ornstein comments. Obviously, I can't put them up on TikTok. The comments are on YouTube, so that's what we got. So this is what David Ornstein has been saying. He was on the Athletic podcast. We know David Ornstein is a guy who has is in the know. Can I join what, Corey? Can you come and join on YouTube? You can come and join in on YouTube if you obviously come across and subscribe on YouTube. Liverpool, from what I hear, are steadfastly behind Arne Slot, and he's under contract until 2027, and they want him to be their coach. The hierarchy are determined that he is the man to get things right. If they were looking at a recruitment process for coaches, he said to be the exact profile that they would be looking at, and there's not people on the market that they think are better suited to what they're looking for, that they're happy with him. I'm expecting this to go on, and what the club go to the summer in whatever shape. I don't think taking out the head coach is on Liverpool's agenda at all. Interesting comments from David Ornstein. Now, this is, I suppose, as opposed to what is being said on a number of other platforms. You look at comments that Fabrizio Romano is making that's come via Paul Joyce, Lewis Steele, David Lynch, that there is an agenda where at the end of this season there will supposedly be a review that will take place of Liverpool Football Club by the hierarchy, that's by Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards, and I presume John W. Henry as well. And they will look at, is Arne Slot the man to take Liverpool forward? And there's obviously a number of criteria that are going to look into that. But these comments here, I mean, let's sort of try and unpick these comments. of what he said. Corey says they're all pen pushers. The boards don't care what they say at the end of the day. I mean, yeah, look, at the end of the day, look, this is what David Ornstein is probably been briefed to say. And, you know, I find it, before I look at this comment in a bit more depth, what I want to say is this. I find it highly unlikely that anyone at Liverpool Football Club would come out when we're still in the Champions League, when we are pushing into we are still in the FA Cup, we are pushing for the top 5 in the Premier League, that we are going to go out there and we are going to say, yeah, let's sack him. Yeah, look, his position's under review. Of course they're going to come out and back him. Of course they're going to come and say that. They should have well looked into this months ago. It's causing chaos in and out of Anfield, says the Anfield faithful. Welcome, Anfield faithful. Anfield faithful, if you haven't yet checked us out, please check us out on YouTube. But looking at these comments that David Ornstein has made, look, like I said, I don't think anyone comes out at this point and says anything other than this. You know, we're in a situation where we're still in the Champions League. Hopefully we'll still be after next week when we play Galatasaray. We're still in the FA Cup. We're in the quarterfinals. Yes, we've got a very tough draw away to Manchester City. We're still in a chase for the top 5. So at the end of the day, that's where we're up to. That's where we're at this moment in time. So, you know, realistically, nobody at the club is going to come out and say, yes, there's going to be a review. Yes, we're going to look at the head coach for next season. Yes, Slot's position is under question. It's not going to come out like that. They're going to come and brief as positively as possible to push a message that is as positive as possible towards Slot, towards what's happening at the club, because at the end of the day, they want the players, they want the fans, and everyone to think that everything is fine, everything's progressing well. It's giving a message to the players, look, the players, he's going to be here next season. He isn't going anywhere, so you've got to knuckle down, you've got to play for him, or else your future at the club might be under threat. And, you know, you've got to really push this. So at the end of the day, they're not going to come out and say anything different to that, are they? And that's kind of, I think, where these comments are coming from, where these comments are being made. Corey the Legend says, in the modern game, the club history gets determined on the result that week. I mean, look, it is a results-based business, Corey, at the end of the day. And you're only as good as your last result, aren't you? At the end, you know, Arne Slot, if he loses to Tottenham this weekend, there's going to be the absolute cacophony of get him out, get him sacked. Whereas if we go out and beat Tottenham convincingly 3-4-0, it'll be all is forgiven. He's the greatest manager since sliced. It's the way the modern game is, and unfortunately, and that's how things are. You know, myself, I look at this as a whole season thing, not just a short season thing. You know, it is a whole season thing that I'm looking at, and to me, the performances this season have not been good enough. You know, this club should be up in the top 3 now. It should not be in a position where we are 19 points or whatever it is, I can't remember off the top of my head, behind Arsenal, that we are not in the challenge for the Premier League, that this is one of the worst title defences on record, that, you know, that we are, as a squad, the football looks poor, we're not able to dominate games, we struggle to beat newly promoted teams. You know, given the fact that this club spent over 400 million in the summer on players, and won the league last season, and still retained a lot of last season's good players. Yes, we lost players. Yes, we lost Diaz and Nunez, etc., etc. And unfortunately, of course, the tragic passing of Diogo Jota. But at the end of the day, this shouldn't be the case that we're struggling like this to get in the Champions League. We're struggling, you know, to beat Galatasaray away. You know, it shouldn't be that case at all. Not with this squad. Not with these players. And yes, I know we've got injuries. Yes, I know Leone is out. Yes, you know, I know that Isak is out. Of course, that there is problems there. You know, that it is what it is. But at the end of the day, we should not be in this position. There is no way on God's green earth we should be in this position where we are struggling to win games. We're struggling to get top 4. It just shouldn't happen. Anfield Faithful says, poor with defensive midfield attack. Every position is poor. I think we lack depth, Anfield Faithful. We lack a lot of depth in this squad. It's one of the things I've spoken about on a number of the videos I've spoken about on the podcasts is if you look at our squad against the top squads, the Manchester Cities, the Arsenals, the Chelseas of this world, we don't have the strength in depth. We just don't have that strength in depth. We have 2 centre-backs. Yes, I know Joe Gomez can be possibly a third one. You know, we have issues with our right backs. We've got no number 6 in the squad. Grav's not a number 6. You know, there are a lot of issues in this football team. You know, the squad depth just is not there. Wingers, we don't have any. I'll get back to the David Ornstein comments in a minute, but I'm just going to answering what's been said on TikTok. It was on TikTok as well. So remember, guys, we are live streaming this afternoon on TikTok and on YouTube. If you're on TikTok, give us a check out on YouTube. Give us a sub over there. We're 6 away from 200. Please smash a sub on the video. Right now, we don't even the walls, doors of this house. Oh, okay, yes, I get what you mean now. We don't have the foundations of a house anyway, in any way, shape or form. According to a lot of reports, you listen to a lot of the Dutch supporters, the Feyenoord fans, they talk about how Arne Slot likes to play with wingers, with quick, speedy wingers. We don't have wingers at Liverpool. The only one we've got is Rio Ngamoa. He won't play Rio Ngamoa for whatever reason consistently. That's a matter of discussion. I'm going to touch on that this afternoon. But, Gakpo is not a winger. Salah is no longer a winger. We don't have any wingers in this squad. And, you've got a situation where perhaps Slot isn't able to play the way he wants to play. And I'm not defending him for a minute here, but what I'm saying is perhaps he isn't able to play the way he wants to play because he hasn't got the players to play that way. Because we don't have wingers, we don't have Luis Diaz anymore. Obviously sold to Bayern in the summer. We didn't go out and replace him. We didn't get a Barcola or a Fofana or someone like that. We didn't make those changes. We didn't bring those players in to strengthen this squad. And we didn't Rodrigo, whoever, to add that width to the squad, and that's obviously lacking. But getting back to these squad, David Ornstein comments that David Ornstein made on the Athletic podcast. He talks about the fact that everyone is steadfastly behind Arne Slot, that they want him to be the coach, and the hierarchy determined he is the man to get things right. As I've said, that's a standard thing. It's like a vote of confidence, isn't it? At the end of the day, to come out when your manager's under pressure, you've just lost. You've lost to Galatasaray in the Champions League. You're getting an absolute shoo-in in the media. Everyone's saying the football's bad, the football's poor. Liverpool have got no identity. Liverpool have got no shape. Liverpool have got no form. That was one of the worst performances we've seen in a long time. This has been said by ex-players. You've got Steve Nicol criticising the club, Steve McManaman criticising the club, Steven Gerrard. People coming out criticising the way we performed. You're going to put your wagons in a circle. You're going to get behind. The manager, and you're going to publicly back the manager. That's what the board will do in these circumstances. So that first bit of those comments that are made by David Ornstein, I don't see any surprise in those. And to be honest with you, it's a little bit of adding on to what they've been saying all year. And as I said a few moments ago, at the start of the podcast, it's about saying basically this guy is here till the summer. He is going nowhere. He will be here till the summer. Whether or not he is still here next season, obviously, I don't know. But at this moment in time, there are no plans to sack him. He will get the whole season, no matter what happens. No matter what happens. And we can talk about expectations, what's acceptable for this season, what's not acceptable for this season. Of course we can. But at the end of the day, he's here till the end of the season. Fact. Absolute fact. Right. If they were looking at a recruitment process for coaches, he said to be the exact profile that they would be looking at, and that there's not people on the market that they think better suit what they're looking for, that they're happy with him. Right, so there is this process there. Then if they were looking at this recruitment process, well, they're not going to come out and say, we're looking at buying managers. We're looking at bringing in a new manager. I love Liverpool. I love Galatasaray, says Adam. Wonderful. They're not going to look at and come out and say, we are looking at a few managers. We are recruiting new managers. They're going to say there's no recruitment process. Now, this comes, of course, off the back of lots of stories coming out of Spain, lots of stories coming out across the continent that Liverpool have agreed a 3-year deal with Xabi Alonso, that Alonso is going to be the next Liverpool manager, blah, blah, blah. That's been going on for ages now. This is a good way to shut that down, to say to people, not the case, to put some certainty back, because we know that uncertainty breeds bad form. Uncertainty causes a team to struggle. Uncertainty causes bad results. It causes rifts in the dressing room. It causes the dressing room not to be confident, because at the end of the day, the dressing room, if they think their manager is going to be replaced, they're going to think, well, why the hell do I try for him? Why the hell do I bother? Because he's not going to be here next season. I might as well save myself for next season. So there's that element there coming through it as well. Now, this element of he's what they would look for as a manager. Again, that's a vote of confidence. But also, I think a little bit of that is also down to the fact that Slot is a little bit of what they want. Because, look, I think Arne Slot, yes, carries a lot of blame for how this season's gone. Don't get me wrong. Arne Slot carries a lot of blame for how this season has progressed. 100%. Because, like I said, there's no way that Liverpool should be in a position that they're in now. That they should be struggling to make top four. That this has been one of the worst title defences. That we're so far behind the leaders. That the football is disjointed. There's no style, shape. It shouldn't be happening. Now, I want to say what I've said on a number of videos on the YouTube channel, which is this. If you're sitting there today saying, we're in a transition season, this is a transition season, this is moving the team on, this is progressing the team. Let me put it this way to you, shall I? Let me put it this way. This season was never about a transition. Never. If you go back to the comments that were made at the start of the season by Richard Hughes, by Arne Slot, at the start of this season, after the investment that there was in this team in the summer, all the conversations were around, we are building a team to compete on all four fronts. We are building a team that can dominate on all four fronts. Isak and Wirtz and Frimpong and all these guys that have come in to add to the Gravenbergs, the Soberslais, the McAllisters, the Salahs, the Gakpos, etc., of this world. That was what was talked about. Now, as soon as the season started to go wrong, as soon as the football was poor, as soon as we started to lose games we should have been winning, as soon as things started to not work out for the club, suddenly the message changes. Oh, this is a transitional season. This is a transitional season. This is a transition. And that's what all the messages coming out of the club seem to be about. And all the happy clappers jumped on that bandwagon straight away. Oh, it's a transition season, blah, 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 blah. Absolute, complete and utter bullshit. It's bullshit. It is absolute rubbish. Rubbish from the club. Just pure rubbish. Because at the end of the day, as I've said, it was never a transition season. That's a narrative that has now come in due to the results. Okay? So let's get that clear. Let's get that clear. Now, as I've said, a lot of this, what's gone wrong this season, is on Arne Slot. It's not on the players. It's not on anyone but the manager. Okay? He is responsible for making this team make progress, which they're not doing, putting in place a style, an identity, a shape of playing, which he's not doing. Would you say the owners lack title ambitions? If they keep Arne Slot forever young, yes, I would. If they keep Arne Slot, I'd say yes, they do. They lack ambition to understand that this football club is the biggest football club in Britain, that this football club is one of the 3 biggest football clubs in Europe, and should be in a position where every single year we are competing for the Premier League. We are competing for the Champions League and all the domestic cups as well. It shouldn't just be we are basically turning into the Arsenal of Arsene Wenger, where 4th place is a trophy. Comment here says, I think some of the players have to take accountability, but most of the season is on Arne. Yeah, I agree. Some of the players have massively underperformed. Gakpo, Salah, for example, Konate at times this season. I agree with you, buddy, on that one. 100% agree. Now, in terms of this profile of the manager they're looking for, Arne Slot is what they would be looking for. Of course he is. Do you know why? Because Slot's a yes man. Slot is a yes man. Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards don't want someone who is going to rock the boat. Now, if you go back to Jurgen Klopp's time as manager, Michael Edwards didn't get on. Did not get on. Jurgen Klopp had a number of run-ins with the ownership and the sporting directors over his time in there, but Arne always won. Jurgen always won the way because of his strength of character and because everyone knew, A, he carried the popularity with the fans, B, he carried the popularity with the players, and C, he won them the majority of games and he won them trophies. And that's why Jurgen was a strong character who wasn't a yes man. Now, as Arne Slot is a yes man, he will do as he's told, when he's told, by Richard Hughes, by Michael Edwards. He's not going to rock the boat, he's not going to kick off, he's not going to argue with them the same way that Jurgen would have done. Rest assured, if this season was going as it was under Jurgen would be kicking off with these owners, big style, and not taking it. But Arne is a yes man, and that's another reason why those comments around he's the type of manager they want. Yes, a yes man. End of the day, that's what he is. And the bad form has been brewing all season. Sad one. when it's down to tactics. Maybe the tactics are poor. The tactics are poor. There's only one manager we would take, and we all know who it is. We need to get it done sooner rather than later. Let me know, Jay, who that is in your estimations, who you would take as the new Liverpool manager if Liverpool decided to go down that route and replace Arne Slot. Now, in the last paragraph there, David Ornstein says this. He says, I'm expecting this to go on and the club get to the summer in whatever shape. I don't think taking out the head coach is on Liverpool's agenda at all. I genuinely don't agree with this part, Alonso. I genuinely don't agree with this part. I honestly think that if Liverpool miss out on Champions League football, let's forget winning the FA Cup and winning the Champions League for a minute. Okay, let's forget that for a minute, shall we? Let's forget, being Champions League winners or being FA Cup winners, and let's concentrate on the league for a minute. Now, Liverpool currently sits 6th in the league. If the league ended now, and, for example, Liverpool finished 6th and finished outside the Champions League places. Now, there is no way Arne Slot survives that. Zero chance he survives that. There is no way that even Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards would sit down at the end of the season and go, well, we spent £400 million and we finished 6th. We didn't win any trophies and we don't have Champions League football next season. Oh, let's keep Arne for next season. I'm sure it'll be better. It ain't going to happen, guys. It isn't going to happen. No matter what David Ornstein may say or may comment on this, it isn't going to happen. It isn't. Jay says, I've sacked Slot ages ago and brought in Stevie G as an interim. I agree with that. I would have brought Stevie into the end of the season. I think that would have been a good move. He'd have kicked some ass. He would have made sure these players went out there with some fight in their, and fire in their belly. Agreed on that one, buddy. But look at it this way, right? Look at it this way. I honestly think that even if Liverpool make the Champions League but don't win any trophies this season, I still think a fundamental review takes place, because even the most tone deaf of owners, and I'm not saying for a minute that Richard Hughes or Michael Edwards or John W. Henry are in tune with the fans. Alan says, please be gentle with us on Sunday. Come on, you Spurs. Mate, Alan, tell me what is going on. What is going on with Spurs? What is going on at your football club? I genuinely don't get what is going on with your football club and how you are where you are. Please let me know in the live chat on TikTok what is happening with your football club, mate. We are double pants, says Alan. What's the fundamental issues, Alan? Gaz LFC, welcome. Please, obviously, guys, one quick appeal. If you've just found us on YouTube, please, obviously, subscribe to the channel. If you're on TikTok, head over to YouTube, Anfield Review Podcast. Give us a Google. Subscribe to us. Come and join us, please. We're on 194 subs. We'd love to get to 200 subs as soon as possible. So, guys, come on over, please. Head over from TikTok. Come on to YouTube. Give us a sub during the live chat over here. Because on YouTube, guys, just a reminder, we do daily content. We do more podcasts. We do more stuff over on YouTube than we do on TikTok. So that's the place to be for daily Liverpool content. Former LFC legends keep mentioning Klopp. Only won one league trophy. Could Slot compete with City? No, I don't think he would have done Forever Young. I don't think he would have done. I don't think anyone competes with City back when they were City, when they were truly City, with the form they had, the players they had. Not a chance. Alan says, too many injuries, too many reserves, playing like a pub team. That's in reference to Spurs. You do seem to have a lot of players missing at this moment in time, certainly. Look, I don't, like I said, I think, in terms of those comments, in terms of that end of season review, if Arne wins the Champions League, then yes, there is zero chance he will get sacked. If Arne wins the FA Cup, I think that will be, and he gets Champions League, I think with the ownership, they will make an argument for him to stay. I still think there's a lot of fans who will want to see him gone at the end of the season. Jay says, if Alonso isn't your answer, who would you want to see in? Luis Enrique would be a good candidate. Julian Nagelsmann. Someone like that. Ashley Patterson from Queen's Park. Anyway, look, there we go. I do think, though, that Arne, if Liverpool finish in the Champions League places, in the top 5 in the league, and they win the FA Cup, he will keep his job. I think if they win the Champions League, he keeps his job. I think if Liverpool just make the Champions League and don't win anything, then I don't see how he can keep his job. Not when you've thought of how much money has been invested in this team. What did you think about the corrupt cheating? Arsenal penalty last night. Oh, mate, it was never a penalty. Madueke dives. It's a dive. It's a blatant dive. How that gets past VAR, God only knows. I don't know, mate. I don't know how that one comes past anything, honestly. Genuinely don't know how he gets that at all. It's not a penalty. It's not a penalty. Look, in terms of that Champions League, Liverpool obviously come off the back of losing 1-0 to Galatasaray. And I'll be honest with you, it could have been 3, 4, 5, 2 to them. Honestly, it could have been anything. Mamoulaşvili makes some good saves. Look, and I've talked Mamoulaşvili down this season. I've said that I don't rate him. That I don't think he's going to be good enough. Look, I'll be honest with you, jury's still out on Mamoulaşvili for me. But, you know, he pulled off some really good saves in that game the other night. He pulled off some brilliant saves. He really did. But, you know, overall, that performance the other night was absolutely dreadful. It was just so poor. It was directionless. It lacked shape. It lacked any sort of form. It was just so bad. And it's worrying how bad it was, because there just seemed to be no quality, no direction, no style, nothing. You know, and that Galatasaray team ain't a great team. They're not a good team. You know, Victor Osimhen is a very good footballer. And, you know, Victor Osimhen would get into a lot of Premier League teams. It certainly would. But there's no way we should be going to Galatasaray and losing. There is no way we should be losing to Galatasaray. It just shouldn't be happening. And we need to see a really big performance in the second leg if we're going to progress to the next round of the Champions League. Now, my worry, my concern going forward is that, as I said on the video this morning, under the lights at Anfield with Jurgen Klopp, we smashed that team. We absolutely smashed Galatasaray. Not a problem. We absolutely take them apart. 3-4-0. Not a problem. The same we did to Barcelona, Borussia Dortmund, etc., etc., under Jurgen. However, under Arne Slot, under the lights at Anfield, zero guarantees we win that game. I don't have masses of confidence that we go on to win that game against Galatasaray. You know, I really don't, because I don't know whether defensively we're strong enough to keep them out. They've got some very good attacking players. They've got Osimhen, they've got Sane, for instance, Yilmaz, sorry. They've got some very good attacking players. So, you know, we're going to have to obviously attack, but not go all out on attack because it's only 1-0. Because if we go all out, we can get picked off on the counter. So my concern is that we get picked off, they score a goal, 2-0, we've then got to score 3 to go through, and so on and so forth. So I'm not hugely confident going into the game that we win that game. Not hugely confident. It's a game we have to win, because if Liverpool were to go out to Galatasaray, then you've really then got to start to raise even bigger questions of Arne Slot as a manager in Europe. Now, Europe's kind of been his one saving grace up onto that Galatasaray game. You know, some good results against Real Madrid, for example, in the Champions League. You know, a pretty good groups league stage of the Champions League for Liverpool. Some good performances. But if he doesn't get past Galatasaray, you've got to start to raise even bigger questions. And like I said, I'm not massively and overly confident in beating Galatasaray under the light. Like I said, if it was under Jurgen Klopp, I would be sitting here this afternoon saying to you, it's going to be a game at Anfield. Liverpool will absolutely take Galatasaray to the cleaners. It'll be 3-4-0. It'll be an easy win. We'll progress nice and easily. Not a problem. No worries about that whatsoever, guys. No worries about us getting through. But against Galatasaray under Jurgen Klopp, under Arne Slot, I don't have that confidence. I genuinely do not have that confidence, and it is worrying. It's concerning, to feel that way for certain. Guys, obviously, please smash a like on the video. Please, obviously, subscribe to the video if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not watching on YouTube, you're on TikTok, come over to YouTube, give us a check out over here. Would be great if you could, obviously, come over and give us a bit of a follow over there. Right, look, look, I think coming out of that Gala game, one of the things that massively concerned me coming out of that Gala game was what was Slot's thinking in terms of the team. You know, at the point where we're struggling, where we're not playing well, where we're not doing well, you've got a bench where, yes, it wasn't the strongest bench in the world, right? Certainly, by any stretch of the imagination, that's not a strong bench that we've got against Galatasaray. But can someone tell me, please, can someone tell me why Curtis Jones doesn't get a game? Why Rio and Gamoa doesn't come on? I don't get that. I don't get some of his changes. Now, in terms of Curtis Jones, for example, you know, in terms of Curtis Jones, yes, Curtis has his critics, right? Yes, Curtis has his critics. Of course he does. But he's still a decent player, right? And the other night, he would have been the perfect player to bring on, to hold on to the ball, to start working the ball through the midfield, to get a bit of control back in that midfield. But he doesn't bring him on. At no point do we see him on. And especially as, if you look at the midfielders who were in that game the other night, Gravenberch, McAllister, were absolutely dreadful. They were unbelievably bad in that game the other night. Yet at no point does it look like Curtis Jones is going to get on, or even Trey Neone to some degree. And Trey was great against Wolves. Absolutely. I love Trey. I think the way Trey's been treated this season by Arne, not getting many minutes, is awful. You know, the one thing I really liked about Trey's performance against Wolves in the Cup the other day was, what was Trey's first intention? Every time he got the ball, what was his first intention? Get it, move it forward. Get it, move it forward. Get it, break the lines, go forward. Yet, nobody else seemed to be doing that. McAllister wasn't, Grav wasn't. They were giving the ball away. They were getting overrun. They were getting dominated. Curtis and Trey, I think, would have brought more physicality, more aggression than Maka and than Grav brought. So I don't get why Curtis Jones doesn't get on at some point. He was one of the best players in that game against Wolves. I think had Rio not had the game that he has, then Curtis probably gets man of the match, scores a great goal in that game as well. Doesn't get an involvement at all. Then you've got Rio and Gamoa. Now, Rio and Gamoa is just coming off the back of man of the match performance. Man of the match against Wolves. And the one thing against Wolves, and I know Wolves are not as good as Galatasaray, I understand. And there's a difference between FA Cup and Champions League. Get that. Understand that. I'm not stupid. But what does Rio do every time he gets the ball? He's aggressive, he goes forward, he takes his man on, he beats his man, puts a dangerous ball into the box, has a shot, does whatever, creates chances, creates opportunities, tries to score goals, does everything the right way round. Yet, what do we bring on? We bring on Gakpo again. And what difference does Cody make? Absolutely none. So, what does that do to Rio's confidence? What does that do to Rio as a player? What messages is that giving to Rio as a player? To me, it's destroying his confidence again. And it's Slot badly managing people again and again and again. And Rio and Gamoa, for me, needs to get on a lot more and needs to play a lot more in this team. He really does need to play a lot more. And I would love to see him on Sunday against Spurs. I hope he gets minutes on Sunday against Spurs. I really do, because he is just the player we need. And we lack so much pace, so much directness, so much aggression in that final third. Yes, Ekitike brings some of it, but Salah doesn't. Gakpo doesn't. Wirtz wasn't great the other night. Why isn't Gamoa not getting his opportunities to come on, to play, to have a go, to go at that defence and create some problems? And to me, big mistake from Arne Slot not bringing on either Curtis Jones or Rio and Gamoa in some way, shape or form on Tuesday night. Really big mistake. Big mistake there for me. And look, in terms of Curtis as well, you've got to kind of start to question whether Curtis will be here next year. A lot of the smart talk is saying that, Curtis wants to play regular first team football. He wants to get in the team more regularly. He's not getting his opportunities on the slot. He's going to start to look for elsewhere. He's going to start to look to move on. And that's how it is. And that's sad. That is a sad state of affairs if Curtis is not getting more minutes. And look, he'd be another young player heading out the door. Another young player that we lose. Harvey Elliott likely to leave this summer. Tyler Morton's gone. We're losing these young talented players quite easily. And it's down to Slot's mismanagement. It really is down to Slot's mismanagement of those young players. It is a big concern. It's a big concern. Now, as I said earlier, yes, Slot carries a lot of the blame for what is happening, but I don't think the mismanagement is just on Arne Slot. I think there is mismanagement from Richard Hughes, mismanagement from Michael Edwards as well. You know, Richard Hughes and the whole squad thing, I find the whole building of the squad thing really confusing. Because on one hand, you've got Arne Slot saying that he wants a smaller squad, then him saying later on that he doesn't have enough players. Richard Hughes, to me, has kind of failed in a way. As the sporting director, he should be putting together, and the way this model works is that the sporting director builds the squad for the head coach then coaches the players and brings those players through. Now, what my issue is with Richard Hughes is he's failed to build a squad that is deep enough, that is strong enough in the Champions League, in the league. The squad just isn't there for us to compete. And as I said, I was talking to a mate of mine who's funny enough, is a Leicester fan. I mean, they've got their own issues, haven't they, this season? But you know, you look at that team on Tuesday night, and you look at that bench on Tuesday night that Liverpool had. The bench was Gakpo, Robertson, Frimpong, Jones, Woodman, Nioni, Nallo, Morrison, Ngamoa, and Miskler. Now, Gakpo, yeah, okay, international. Robertson, I like Andy. Andy Robertson's a good player. Likely to leave, but he's a good player. Frimpong did well when he came on. Curtis Jones. But beyond that, you've got Woodman, backup goalkeeper, not a great backup goalkeeper. Trey Nioni, yes, Trey should be getting more minutes. Narlo, he's not going to play. He gets sent off every time he plays, for God's sake. Kieran Morrison, never going to get on. Rio Ngamoa should be getting more minutes. And Cornel Miskler, not going to get on. The squad just lacks depth. It lacks depth, completely lacks depth and any sort of talent. Now, if you look at Arsenal's squad, the Arsenal team, yes, I know they drew 1-1 yesterday with Leverkusen, but you know, you look at their bench: Gabriel Jesus, Noni Madueke, Kai Havertz, Christian Mosquera, Ben White, Kepa, Christian Norgard, Ricardo Calafiori, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Max Dowman. There's strength in depth there. More strength in depth in that squad than there is in ours, for certain. More strength in depth than there is in theirs. Now, I know they got hammered by Real Madrid, but you look at Manchester City's squad yesterday. Again, it's stronger. It's a lot stronger than ours. You know, you've got Reinders on the bench, Marmouche on the bench, Cherki on the bench, Al Nouri on the bench, Stones on the bench, Ake on the bench, Gonzalez, Nunez, Foden. There's so much more strength in depth there and more options for the manager. And I suppose that's one argument, that Arne doesn't have the strength in depth. He doesn't have the players to pick from. He doesn't have the quality to pick from that other managers do. And yes, like I said, I think he has his problems, and I think he isn't getting it right on the park. But I don't think he's been helped by Richard Hughes and what Richard Hughes has done. I think Richard Hughes has failed to act decisively on squad building. Richard Hughes has failed to act decisively on the manager. Richard Hughes has failed to act decisively on anything this season. January transfer window, he got spectacularly wrong. I mean, nobody comes in January. We're crying out for a centre-back. We're crying out for a right-back. We're crying out for some form of forward. What does he do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Sits on his hands. Now, that may be because the manager's position's under question. He doesn't want to spend money when that's the case. I don't know. Could be the case. But not if you listen to David Ornstein, it's not. Not if you listen to what David Ornstein's saying, it isn't. So I think he has failed, Richard Hughes, as well, to build the squad. Massively failed to build the squad. And that's not Arne's fault. That's Richard Hughes' fault, for me, that he's failed spectacularly to do that. Really has, on a number of occasions, failed massively to strengthen this squad in the right way, shape or form. Now, Liverpool obviously go into Sunday against Spurs. Look, Spurs are one of the worst teams in the Premier League right now. They are one of the worst teams in the Premier League right now. They are just so bad. Such a bad side. I don't know if any of you saw the game, if you watched the 5-2 with Atletico Madrid the other day. They were so bad in that game. So genuinely dreadful in that game. And they were so poor. It's a game we should be winning quite easily. A game we should be winning very, very easily. And I think if Liverpool don't fail to get 3 points and put in a good performance against Spurs, there's going to be huge questions asked of Arne Slot after that game too. And we will look ahead to that game on tomorrow's podcast, guys. Thank you for joining us today. If you've joined us today, if you haven't obviously joined us live, please try and join us live. Look out for when the the pods are scheduled. If you don't know when they're going to be scheduled, best way to do that, subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell as we continue to build for the future. Guys, we're not going anywhere. We're going to keep building, keep hammering away, keep trying to break into this podcast network and do our very best to bring you all the latest news and opinion around Liverpool Football Club. Thank you for watching the channel. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for everything. And I will catch you very soon. On the way out, please like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe to the channel.